A crime boss walks into his girlfriend's apartment for the first time. He is 42 years old. He has been dating Elena for 6 months. She is beautiful, smart, independent, everything he looks for in a woman. But there is one thing Elena never told him. One detail she kept hidden through every dinner, every phone call, every night together. She has a daughter. He finds out not because Elena finally told him. He finds out because the apartment door swings open, and standing there is a 7-year-old girl with tangled brown hair, huge brown eyes, and a faded unicorn tush, 2 sizes too small. She looks up at him, and the first words out of her mouth are not hello. They are not, who are you? The first thing she says, in the smallest, most broken voice he has ever heard, is, Sophie, are you here to take mommy away to? He freezes. Confused, caught off guard, and then Elena appears behind her daughter, face pale, eyes red like she has been crying for hours, and she does not even look at him. She just kneels down and wraps her arms around the little girl. Elena, no baby, no one is taking me anywhere, I promise. But the way Elena says it, shaking, desperate, like she is trying to convince herself as much as her daughter, tells him something is very, very wrong. And in that moment, standing in the doorway of a small, cramped apartment he has never seen before, the most powerful man in the city realizes he does not know the woman he has been falling in love with at all. 6 months earlier, how IT started his name is Julian Cross. He runs the largest criminal organization on the East Coast. Drugs, weapons, money laundering, protection rackets. If it is illegal and it makes money, Julian controls it. He is feared by everyone who knows his name, respected by no one, and completely alone. He does not do relationships. He does not do attachment. Women come and go like business deals, short, clean, no strings, until he met Elena. It happened at a charity gala 6 months ago, one of those fancy fundraisers the rich attend to feel good about themselves while writing checks they will never miss. Julian was there because his lawyer told him showing up to events like this made him look legitimate. Elena was there working as an event coordinator. She was 28, dark hair pulled into a neat bun. Simple black dress, no jewelry, no makeup beyond the basics. She was not trying to stand out, but she did. Because while everyone else at that event was either fakes, smiling or fake, laughing or fake caring, Elena looked exhausted. Real exhaustion, the kind that comes from working 3 jobs and still not having enough. Julian watched her from across the room. She was directing servers, fixing centerpieces, answering questions from guests with a polite smile that never quite reached her eyes. And when the event finally ended and everyone left, she sat down at one of the empty tables, took off her heels, and just breathed. Julian walked over. Julian, long night. She looked up, startled, like she had forgotten anyone else was still there. Elena, every night is long. She said it without bitterness, just fact, and something about that honesty, that refusal to pretend her life was anything other than hard, made Julian sit down. Julian, can I buy you a drink? Elena, I don't drink with strangers. Julian, then let me stop being a stranger. I'm Julian. She studied him for a long moment. Not with interest, not with attraction, with the careful, tired suspicion of someone who has learned not to trust easily. Elena, that was the beginning. Over the next 6 months, Julian did something he had never done before. He pursued her, not with money, not with power, but with time. He showed up at her events, brought her coffee when she was working late, listened when she talked about her day. He learned she worked 3 jobs: event coordinator during the day, bartender 3 nights a week, and freelance graphic design whenever she had a spare hour. He learned she lived in a small apartment across town that she could barely afford. He learned she was saving every penny for something important, but she never said what. And slowly, very slowly, she let him in. Dinner dates turned into late night conversations. Conversations turned into trust. Trust turned into something Julian had not felt in 20 years. Love. But there was always a line Elena would not cross. She never invited him to her apartment. She never talked about her past, and whenever he asked about her family, she changed the subject. Julian told himself it did not matter. Everyone has secrets. He certainly had his. But 6 months in, when he told her he loved her, she said it back. And that was when Julian decided it was time to stop pretending they were casual. He wanted to meet her family, see where she lived, be part of her real life, not just the polished version she showed him. So he showed up at her apartment unannounced, with flowers, with a plan to take her to dinner, with the words, "I want this to be serious," ready on his lips. He knocked on the door, waited, and when it opened, his entire world tilted. The apartment, the truth revealed, the little girl standing in the doorway is 7 years old. Julian knows this immediately, not because she tells him, but because he has been around enough to recognize the look of a child who has seen too much too soon. Her brown hair is tangled, uncombed, like no one has brushed it in days. Her unicorn tiche, is faded and stretched. The collar hanging loose on one side, her jeans have a hole in one knee, and her feet, small, bare feet, are dirty. But what stops Julian cold are her eyes, big, brown, filled with fear so raw it makes his chest tighten. "Sophie, are you here to take Mommy away too?" Before Julian can answer, before he can even process the question, Elena appears. She looks destroyed, her face is pale, eyes swollen and red, hair falling out of a messy ponytail. She is wearing sweatpants and an old tiche. Nothing like the put-together woman he knows. And when she sees him standing there, her expression shifts from shock to panic to something that looks almost like shame. "Elena, Julian, what are you? You can't be here." "Julian, who is this?" Elena does not answer. She just kneels down, wraps her arms around the little girl, and pulls her close. "Elena, Sophie, go to your room, okay? I need to talk to this man." "Sophie, is he going to hurt you?" "Elena, no, baby. No one is going to hurt me. Just go to your room, please." Sophie looks up at Julian one more time, studying him with the sharp, wary eyes of a child who has learned to recognize danger, and then slowly walks away. The apartment door closes behind Julian with a soft click, and the silence that follows is heavier than anything Julian has ever felt in a boardroom or a backroom deal. "Julian, you have a daughter. It is not a question. Elena, yes. Julian, 6 months, Elena. 6 months and you never told me. Elena, I couldn't. Julian, why not?" Elena turns away, walks to the small, cluttered kitchen, grips the edge of the counter like it is the only thing holding her up. "Elena, because the moment I told you, the moment anyone knows about her, they have leverage, and I can't let that happen." Julian stares at her. "Julian, leverage? What are you talking about?" Elena laughs, but it is not a happy sound, it is bitter. "Broken." "Elena, you think I don't know who you are, Julian. You think I didn't figure it out after the second date. I Googled you. I read the articles. I know what you do, and I know the kind of people you deal with." She turns to face him, eyes wet but fierce. "Elena, Sophie's father was one of them, a low-level dealer in your world, and when he got caught, when he went to prison, his people came after me. They wanted to know what I knew, what he told me, and when I couldn't give them answers, they threatened her." Julian goes completely still. "Elena, so I disappeared, changed my name, moved 3 times in 2 years. I work 3 jobs under the table, so there is no paper trail. I don't have social media. I don't have friends. I don't have anything that could lead them back to us. And I sure as hell don't introduce my daughter to a man who runs the same world that destroyed my life." She wipes her eyes roughly, angry at herself for crying. "Elena, but I was stupid. I fell for you anyway, and now you're here. And if the wrong person sees you leaving this building, if anyone puts together that Julian Cross is involved with me, they will use her to get to you, or worse, they will use her to get to me. So you need to leave right now." Julian does not move. He has spent his entire adult life making calculated decisions, cold, logical, always putting the organization first. But standing in this tiny, cluttered apartment, looking at a woman he loves and a child he just met. There is no calculation. There is only one truth. He is not leaving. The choice, Julian. What's her name? Elena blinks. Thrown by the question, Elena, what? Julian, your daughter. What is her name? Elena, Sophie. Her name is Sophie. Julian nods slowly, then walks past Elena into the living room. The apartment is small, cramped. The furniture is old and mismatched. The walls are bare, except for a few crayon drawings, taped up haphazardly. A basket of laundry sits unfolded on the couch. Dishes are piled in the sink. A stack of bills sits on the coffee table, all stamped past due in angry red letters. This is not the life Elena showed him. This is the life she hid. Julian picks up one of the crayon drawings from the wall. It is a picture of two stick figures, one tall, one small, holding hands under a bright yellow sun. At the bottom, in shaky child handwriting, me and Mommy. Julian sets it down carefully. Julian, how old is she? Elena, 7. Julian, you need to. Julian, does she go to school? Elena, yes, public school 3 blocks from here. Julian, does she have friends? Elena, a few. Julian, does she know her father is in prison? Elena goes silent. Elena, she knows he is gone. She doesn't know why. Julian turns to face her. Julian, I'm not leaving, Elena. Elena, you don't understand. Julian, I understand perfectly. You've been running for 2 years. You've been scared for 2 years. You've been alone for 2 years. And you think the only way to keep her safe is to keep everyone at a distance. He steps closer. Julian, but you're wrong. Because the people who threatened you 2 years ago, they worked for me. And if they come after you again, they will answer to me. Elena, that's not how it works, Julian. You can't just. Julian, yes, I can. Because I run this city. And anyone who touches you or your daughter will not live long enough to regret it. Elena stares at him, and for the first time since he walked through that door, her expression softens. Not with relief, with fear. Elena, that's exactly what I'm afraid of, Julian. I don't want Sophie growing up in your world. I don't want her to know what you do. I don't want her to think that violence and fear are normal. Julian, then I'll keep it away from her. Elena, you can't, it's who you are. Julian, maybe, but I can try for you, for her. Elena shakes her head. Elena, why would you do that? You don't even know her. Julian, because I know you and I love you. And if she is part of your life, then she is part of mine. A sound from the hallway, soft, barely audible. Both of them turn. Sophie is standing in the doorway to her room. Still barefoot, still tangled hair, still scared eyes, but this time she is holding something, a worn stuffed rabbit. Gray and faded, one ear missing. Sophie, Mommy, are you crying? Elena wipes her face quickly. Elena, no, baby, I'm okay. Sophie, is the man leaving? Elena looks at Julian. And Julian, for the first time in his life, makes a decision based not on logic, not on power, not on control, but on something he has not felt in decades, hope. Julian, no, I'm not leaving. He walks over to Sophie. Slowly, carefully, and then he kneels so his eyes are level with hers. Julian, my name is Julian. I'm a friend of your mom's, and I'm very happy to meet you, Sophie. Sophie looks at him, then at her mother, then back at him. Sophie, are you going to stay for dinner? Julian glances at Elena. She is watching him with an expression he cannot quite read. Fear, hope, exhaustion, relief, all of it tangled together. Julian, if your mom says it's okay. Sophie looks at Elena. Sophie, can he, Mommy? Elena takes a shaky breath. And then slowly, she nods. Elena, yes, he can stay. Dinner, the first real conversation dinner is mac and cheese from a box. No wine, no candles, no fancy plating. Just 3 people sitting around a small, scratched kitchen table, eating cheap pasta on mismatched plates. Julian has eaten in Michelin-star restaurants. He has had private chefs prepare meals worth thousands of dollars. But sitting here in this cramped kitchen, eating dollar-store mac and cheese, feels more real than any of that. Sophie eats slowly. eyes flicking between Julian and Elena like she is waiting for something bad to happen. Julian, this is really good, Sophie. Did you help make it? Sophie nods. Sophie, I stirred. Julian, you did a great job. I can't cook at all. If I tried to make this, I'd probably burn the water. Sophie giggles, just a little. The first sound of lightness Julian has heard from her. Sophie, you can't burn water. Julian, you'd be surprised what I can burn. Elena watches them. Silent, her fork barely moving. Julian, so Sophie, what do you like to do for fun? Sophie, I like to draw, and I like animals. Mommy says one day we can get a cat, but not yet. Julian, what kind of cat? Sophie, an orange one, with stripes. Julian, that sounds perfect. Sophie looks at her mother. Sophie, Mommy, can I show Julian my drawings? Elena hesitates, then nods. Elena, okay, but only for a few minutes, then it's bedtime. Sophie jumps up from the table and runs to her room. The moment she is gone, Elena speaks. Elena, Julian, you don't have to do this. Julian, do what? Elena, pretend to care, pretend to be interested. I know this isn't what you signed up for. Julian, you're right. It's not what I signed up for, but I'm not pretending, Elena. I meant what I said. If you and Sophie are a package deal, then I'm in. Elena, why, you could have any woman you want. Women without kids, women without drama, women who don't come with a target on their back. Julian, because I don't want any woman, Elena. I want you. Sophie comes running back, arms full of construction paper. Sophie, look. This one is a butterfly, and this one is a dog, and this one is me and Mommy at the park. She spreads them out on the table, each one carefully drawn in crayon, each one bright and colorful despite the faded, cheap paper. Julian looks at them, really looks at them, and he sees something he did not expect. Talent. Sophie is 7. But her drawings have detail, perspective, emotion. This is not just a kid scribbling. This is a kid with a gift. Julian, Sophie, these are amazing. Have you ever taken art classes? Sophie shakes her head. Sophie, Mommy says art classes cost money. Julian looks at Elena. She is staring down at her plate, jaw tight. Julian, well, maybe we can change that. Elena, Julian, we'll talk about it later. Sophie yawns. A big, sleepy yawn that makes her look even smaller. Elena, all right, baby, time for bed. Sophie, can Julian read me a story? Elena freezes. Elena, Sophie, I don't think, Julian, I'd love to. Elena stares at him. Julian, if that's okay with you. Elena looks at Sophie, then at Julian, and slowly, very slowly, she nods. Bedtime, the trust begins. Sophie's room is tiny. Barely big enough for a twin bed, a small dresser, and a cardboard box overflowing with toys. The walls are covered in more crayon drawings, taped everywhere, overlapping, a riot of color in an otherwise gray world. Sophie climbs into bed, pulls the worn blanket up to her chin, still clutching the one-eared rabbit. Sophie, that's Mr. Hoppy. Daddy gave him to me before he left. Julian sits on the edge of the bed. Carefully, like he is afraid one wrong move will break something. Julian, Mr. Hoppy looks very important. Sophie, he is. He keeps me safe at night. Julian, that's a good friend to have. Sophie hands him a book, thin, worn, the cover barely holding on. Sophie, this one is my favorite. Julian opens it, begins to read, and as he reads, stumbling over some of the words because he has not read a children's book in 30 years, he realizes something. This feels right. Not because he knows what he is doing, not because he is good at it, but because for the first time in his life, he is doing something that has nothing to do with power or money or control. He is just here with a little girl who needs someone to read her a story. When he finishes, Sophie is already half asleep. Sophie, Julian, yeah, Sophie, are you going to be my new daddy? Julian goes completely still. He has faced men with guns. He has negotiated million-dollar deals. He has stared down federal prosecutors and rival crime bosses without flinching. But this 7-year-old girl asking him a simple, honest question, it terrifies him. Julian, I don't know, Sophie. That's something you and your mom would have to decide. Sophie, I think I'd like that. You seem nice. And then she closes her eyes, and within seconds, she is asleep. Julian sits there for a long moment, just watching her breathe. Then he stands carefully, quietly, and walks out. Alina is waiting in the hallway. Alina, she likes you. Julian, she barely knows me. Alina, kids are good judges of character, better than adults. Alina looks at the closed door to Sophie's room. Alina, she hasn't asked about her father in 6 months. And now, after one dinner, she asks if you're going to be her new dad. That means something. Julian, what does it mean? Elena, it means she feels safe with you, and that scares me. Because if you leave, if this doesn't work out, it will break her heart. Julian, I'm not going to leave. Elena, you can't promise that. Julian, yes, I can. Elena searches his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. For any sign that he does not mean it, she finds none. Elena, Julian, I need you to understand something. If you do this, if you stay, you can't do it halfway. Sophie has already lost one father. I won't let her lose another. Julian, then I won't be another father she loses. I'll be the one who stays. 3 months later, the changed Julian kept his promise. Over the next 3 months, he became part of their lives, not as a visitor, not as a boyfriend, but as family. He moved them out of the cramped apartment into a house with a backyard. He enrolled Sophie in art classes at the best studio in the city. He showed up to her school events, even the boring ones. He learned how to braid her hair, how to make her favorite breakfast, how to tell when she was upset without her saying a word. And slowly, Sophie stopped flinching when he walked into a room. She stopped asking if he was leaving. She started calling him Julian instead of the man. And then one day, 3 months in, she called him something else. They were at the park. Sophie was on the swings. Julian was pushing her, higher and higher, her laughter echoing across the playground. Sophie, higher, Dad, push me higher. Julian stopped, hand frozen mid. Push. Sophie looked back at him. Eyes wide. Sophie, is that okay? Can I call you Dad? Julian's throat tightened. For the first time in 20 years, he felt his eyes burn. Julian, yeah, that's okay. Sophie smiled, the biggest, brightest smile he had ever seen. Sophie, okay, then push me higher, Dad. And Julian did. That night, after Sophie went to bed, Elena found him sitting on the back porch, staring out at the yard. Silent, Elena, she called you Dad today. Julian, I know. Elena, how do you feel about that? Julian took a long breath. Julian, terrified. Elena, why? Julian, because I don't know how to be a father, Elena. I've spent my whole life being a boss, giving orders, making people afraid. But this, raising a kid, being responsible for another human being. I have no idea what I'm doing. Elena, none of us do, but you're doing it anyway, and that's what matters. Elena sat down beside him. Elena, Sophie loves you, Julian, not because you're perfect, but because you show up every day without fail. That's all she needs. Julian, what if I screw it up? Elena, then you apologize, and you try again. That's what parents do. Julian looked at her. Julian, I never thought I'd have this, a family, a life outside of everything else, but now that I have it, I don't know how I lived without it. Elena, then don't go back to who you were, stay who you are now. Julian, what if I can't? What if my world catches up to us? Elena, then we deal with it, together. The threat returns, but Elena's fear was not unfounded. Because 4 months after Julian walked into that apartment, the past came knocking. It started with a phone call. Julian was at work, a business meeting, in a downtown warehouse, when his second income, and Marcus pulled him aside. Marcus, we have a problem. Julian, what kind of problem? Marcus, the kind with a name, Dmitry Volkov. Julian went cold. Dmitry Volkov, a Russian enforcer who worked for one of the city's smaller syndicates. Not a big player. Not a threat to Julian's empire, but dangerous in a different way, because Dmitry was the man who had threatened Elena 2 years ago. Julian, what does he want? Marcus, he knows about the girl, And he knows you're involved. Julian, how? Marcus, someone talked. One of our people saw you at the house. Put 2 and 2 together. Word got back to Dimitri. Julian's hands curled into fists. Julian, where is he now? Marcus, holed up in his usual spot on the south side, but he sent a message. Says he wants to talk. Says it's about old business. Julian, old business? Marcus, yeah, the kind that involves Elena and her kid. Julian stood up. Julian, set up a meeting. Tonight. Just me and him. Marcus, Julian, that's a bad idea. You don't know what he wants. He could be setting you up. Julian, I don't care. If he wants to talk about my family, he's going to talk to me, face to face. Marcus stared at him. Marcus, your family. Julian, you've known this woman for less than a year. Are you really willing to risk everything for Julian? Yes. The word came out hard. Final, no room for argument. Julian, set up the meeting. The meeting took place in an abandoned garage on the edge of the city. Neutral ground, no cameras, no witnesses. Dimitri arrived with 2 men. Julian arrived alone. Dimitri was tall, broad, scarred, the kind of man who looked like he enjoyed hurting people. Dimitri, Julian Cross, I've heard a lot about you. Julian, and I've heard enough about you. What do you want, Dimitri? Dimitri, straight to business. I like that. Here's the situation. 2 years ago, I had a loose end. A woman who knew too much about an operation I was running. I told her to keep her mouth shut. She did, but now I hear she's shacked up with you. And that makes her my problem again. Julian, she's not your problem. She's mine. Dimitri, see, that's where you're wrong, because the operation she knew about, it's still running. And if she decides to talk to you, to the feds, to anyone, it all comes down. So I need insurance. Julian, what kind of insurance? Dimitri smiled. Cold, calculated. Dimitri, the kid. You hand her over to me for a few days. Just to make sure Elena remembers what happens when people don't play nice. Then we all go back to our lives. Julian did not move. Did not blink. But inside every instinct he had was screaming, Julian, you want me to hand over a 7-year-old child as insurance. Dimitri, I want you to show me that you understand how this world works, because right now, it looks like you've gone soft, and soft men don't last long in our business. Julian stepped forward. Slow, deliberate. Julian, let me make something very clear, Dimitri. That child is under my protection, and anyone who threatens her, anyone who even thinks about touching her, will not live to regret it. Dimitri, is that a threat? Julian, it's a promise. Dimitri laughed. Dimitri, you really have gone soft. You're willing to start a war over some woman's kid, Julian. I'm willing to end you over her. Your choice. The smile faded from Dimitri's face. Dimitri, you know what happens if you do this, right? You know what it costs, Julian. I know exactly what it costs. And I'm willing to pay it. For a long moment, the garage was silent. 2 men, 2 different worlds, 2 different choices, and then Dimitri made his. Dimitri, you're making a mistake, Cross. Julian, maybe. But it's my mistake to make. Dimitri turned and walked out. His men followed, and Julian stood there alone in the empty garage, knowing exactly what he had just done. He had chosen family over business, he had chosen love over power, and there would be consequences. The aftermath, the real test. Julian did not tell Elena about the meeting. Not at first. He went home, had dinner with Elena and Sophie, read Sophie a bedtime story, tucked her in, all of it normal, all of it routine. But when he and Elena were alone, she knew. Elena, what happened? Julian, what do you mean? Elena, don't lie to me, Julian. I can see it on your face. Something happened. Julian sat down, rubbed his face with both hands. Julian, Dmitri Volkov reached out. Elena went completely still. Elena, what did he want? Julian, Sophie, as leverage, to make sure you don't talk about whatever you know. Elena and Julian, and I told him no. And I told him that if he comes near her or you, I'll kill him. Elena did not speak. She just stared at him. Julian, he knows now. That you matter to me, that Sophie matters to me, and in my world, that makes you a target. So I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest. He looked at her. Julian, do you want me to leave? Because if staying with you puts Sophie in danger, I will walk away right now, and I will make sure Dimitri and everyone else knows that you mean nothing to me, that it was just business. And you and Sophie will be safe. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Elena, is that what you want? Julian, no. But this isn't about what I want. It's about what's best for Sophie. Elena, and you think leaving is what's best. Julian, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Elena wiped her eyes. Elena, do you know what Sophie said to me this morning? She said, I'm glad Julian is my dad now. He makes Mommy smile. That's all she wants, Julian, for me to be happy. For us to be a family. And if you leave, if you walk away, it will break her heart. It will break my heart. She stepped closer. Elena, so no. I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay, and I want you to fight for us, because we're worth fighting for. Julian, even if it means war. Elena, even then. 6 months later, the NEW life Dmitry Volkov disappeared 3 weeks after that meeting. No body, no trace, just gone. Julian never told Elena what he did, and she never asked because some things in his world are better left unspoken. But the threat was over, and for the first time in years, Elena and Sophie were safe. Julian kept his promise. He stayed, fought, and he built a life with them. 6 months later, on a Saturday morning, Julian woke up to the sound of laughter. He walked downstairs and found Sophie in the kitchen, covered in flour. Giggling, Elena was beside her, also covered in flour, also giggling. Sophie, Dad, we're making pancakes. Come help? Julian looked at them, his family, his home, and he realized something. For 42 years he had been chasing power, building an empire, making people fear him, but none of it, not 1 second, of it made him as happy as this moment. Standing in a flour-covered kitchen with a woman he loved and a little girl who called him Dad. Julian, all right? But I'm warning you, I'm terrible at making pancakes. Sophie, that's okay. We'll teach you. And they did. That morning, Julian Cross, the most feared man in the city, learned how to make pancakes. He burned the first 3 batches. Sophie laughed every time. Elena kissed him on the cheek and told him he was getting better. And Julian realized, for the first time in his life, that he was exactly where he was supposed to be,